President Trump's national approval rating has always been negative. Every day of his presidency, more people disapprove of Donald Trump than approve of him, many more. And it is just as bad now in key swing states, without which Donald Trump absolutely cannot come close to winning the presidency. In Wisconsin, 55% disapprove of Donald Trump, 41% approve. In Michigan, 54% disapprove, with 42% approving. In Iowa, 54% disapprove, 43% approve. In Pennsylvania, 52% disapprove, 45% approve. In Arizona, 52% disapprove to a 45 approval rating. And in Ohio, 51% disapprove of Donald Trump and only 45% approve. In Florida, it is closer, 49% disapprove of Donald Trump and 48% approve. And Donald Trump won every one of those states in 2016, every one of them. And he needed every one of them. But now that those states have gotten to know Donald Trump a lot better, they disapprove of Donald Trump more than ever. And back with us, John Heilemann and Senator Claire McCaskill, former Senator Claire McCaskill. Senator McCaskill, what do you make of those approval numbers? And I noticed there's some agricultural states in there where the approval rating is at its worst.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. And you know, we always talk all the time about why Republicans aren't saying anything about the madness that is Donald Trump. Why are they not saying anything about him hereby ordering American businesses to do things? I'll tell you, this is going to get tough for people like Joni Ernst in Iowa and Martha McSally in Arizona and Tom Tillis in North Carolina. With Trump underwater, at what point do these senators who are going to try to hold on to their seats, at what point do they have to break with him? And what kind of problems does that cause for them in terms of Republicans who are still crazy about this guy? I mean, his numbers are still pretty good, Lawrence, with Republicans. So I do think it's going to make things much more difficult. And Chuck Schumer is very happy about that.
Yeah, and John Heilemann, states like Texas and Georgia, Trump is still ahead. Yeah. But the change in the numbers are absolutely stunning. Let's just take a look at Georgia, for example. Now he's down to an approval of 49, a disapproval of 47. But back at the beginning of his presidency, look at that difference. He was up at 53-35, almost a 20-point higher approval rating than disapproval rating. That's completely closed up in Georgia.
In Georgia. It's ugly.
Yeah.
And, you know, you think about as you head into 2020, the president has a huge financial advantage. And so they have money to go out and try to do what they need to do, that they must do. When he pull it inside straight.
Unless his campaign manager spends it all, which we're going to discuss later in this
hour. But you look at a situation where, you know, they pulled this inside straight in 2016. There's no doubt he's got to put some new states in play because the ones that he won so narrowly. And you look at the numbers you just laid out. So you look at the states that are the reach states, the states they're talking about trying to win that they didn't win last time. Minnesota, New Mexico, New Hampshire. These are states where the president's numbers still have him underwater. They're really reach states for him. You look at the states that Democrats are not just the swing states where they're ahead in all of them, as the numbers point out, but they're looking at places like Arizona. They're looking at places like Georgia. And these are states where the numbers, it's like Trump is trying to reach for states that are out of his grasp because he got to reach for something. Democrats are looking at a state like Arizona where the numbers are not that different from where they are in some of these other swing states. Their reach states are well within their grasp. And so you think about, you know, how narrow that victory was in 2016 for Trump, how little Democrats have to do to win, and where the reach states respectively are. The president's playing an incredibly weak hand in the places he's trying to get that he didn't get before. Democrats playing a very strong hand, even in states where they're normally weak.
And that was before today's court filing on the Deutsche Bank case. I want to read something about farmers' frustration with the president. This is from the New York Times. It says the predicament of farmers is becoming a political problem for Mr. Trump as he heads into an election year. On Monday, after a 72-hour period during which Mr. Trump twice escalated his trade war with China, Brian Thalman, the president of the Minnesota Corn Growers Association, said he could no longer support the president as he did in 2016. Senator McCaskill, I don't know how the farmers, I don't know how they took until this weekend, some of them, to change their mind about supporting the guy who's ruining their markets.
Well, you have to understand that a lot of the cultural divide issues that are, that's the meat and potatoes of the Donald Trump presidency, is to try to divide this country along cultural issues and blame the Mexicans and the Muslims for every problem that faces families, especially in rural America. I will say that the farmers in our state and in all states like the state I live in are really in a tough position right now. They're leveraged, their farmland value is going down, the markets have closed, and most importantly, they've had terrible natural disasters in terms of flooding and droughts. So they've really had a really tough couple of years, and they're tired of waiting for Donald Trump to bring China. And by the way, if they turn back on the markets in China, it will take years for them to regain the place they had when this mess started. So I do think, while there's still a lot of loyalty to Donald Trump in rural America and in rural Missouri, I do think the farmers are getting really frustrated with how they've been kicked in the shins over and over by the guy they put in the White House.
Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on the button below for more from The Last Word and the rest of MSNBC.